Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy back at it again. Dark skinned Peter Parker, aka light skinned baby back ribs, aka Aimer in game. If you didn't know, now you know. If you see me in your raids, I'm him. I'm that guy. Regardless, I want to talk about today something that's very, very, very near and dear to me in my heart, and that's gonna be water in what the fuck is that raid called? I want to be absolutely politically correct here. How do you say this shit? Hexachromatic Hierarch? I don't even know. I don't even know, bro. Hey, Side Games is running out of ideas. Um, but regardless, shout out Slime Girls again. Fuck with my crew heavy. I wouldn't still be playing Granblue if it wasn't for them. I'd probably be in a retirement crew. Uh, the boys over at Chrysalis, you already know. Shout out Hilo again. He gave me the idea and the motivation to do this shit. So let's get to it. I guess to start, my the whole reason I wanted to make this video is I have been running a lot of Hexa lately and in the past, and I mean, contrary to my mats you see, it looks like I haven't been, but I've been running a lot of raids. My clear rate is atrocious in this raid, by the way. It's like, I swear it's like 40%. And I tend to notice that in almost every fail on this raid, it's not that we're not doing enough damage, we're not pushing fast enough. It always comes down to someone not clearing their pearl. And don't get me wrong, if someone fails their pearl, right, just like one player, it's still possible to clear the raid. It's very hard, in my opinion, but it's still, you can do it. And typically, at least in my experience, it's either the water or the wind player, which is crazy to think about, right? Water being, to my knowledge, the only element to even solo the raid, just due to its sustain, high DPT, the tools that it has to deal with the triggers and shit that this fight brings. And I just kind of wanted to touch on those tools that water does have, especially towards water mains. So I'll just go ahead and throw out the discretion. You can see here, this is for actual like water players. Like if you play water and you're gonna, look at this video and be like, damn, I'm fucking up in Hexa. How can I not fuck up next time? This is for you. It's not for people that are like, oh, it's like I just want to kind of play water because I've played all the other elements and I just kind of want to like play it for fun. This is not for you. I might touch on some alternative, options. Like I might talk about Phylene here and there, or even water like monkey. But other than that, this is for water players. This is for like the standard setup. If you're a water player, you should have dog, you should have Shalom, you should have your Hase uncapped. It's not anything too crazy to ask for, to be honest. If for some reason you don't have Shalom Summer, you can sub her for Phylene, but we'll get into all that later. So first and foremost, other than clearing your 40% Pearl, the most important part of the raid is making sure you do your 2 mil, 9 hit, 12 hit, 15 hit, right? Assuming you're playing out the entire raid. Essentially, how you clear these, right? You just Ogi. I mean, it's water. Every hit you're Oging for is doing more than 2 mil. So this is your easiest access to numerous hits towards that 2 mil omen, right? Just from Ogiing with this party you see here, you have Dog, Shalom, Haselia. They each Ogi twice. Main character, you're playing Kengo. If you click one, or even just auto the turn before to get your charge bar filled up, you Ogi twice there as well. So that's already 8 Ogis plus the chain burst afterwards. So that should be 2 mil. I can't recall if you need the chain burst. What's that shit called? The boosted chain burst damage cap. I'm not sure if you need that. I believe if you're running Glory Key, you don't need that because that obviously boosts your chain burst specs anyway. But in the event that you, for some reason, are running, like, say, Stamina Key, just know that you might have to run chain burst damage cap up on your Ultima. So, with that being said, that already alone gives you your 9 hits towards that 2 mil. If you, let's say your dog has, I don't know, 90% bar, right? She doesn't have her double strike up. She's not going to Ogi twice. She's going to Ogi once that turn, right? So you want to make sure that you call a summon, call out your Lucy, your Baha. You should have been Ogiing in turns prior for some of these other triggers. Let's say, you're on the Galleon phase, right? You're going to need to do your Faded Chains or your 4TA. So by TAing multiple times, you're obviously going to be getting a lot of charge bar gain, or even by doing Faded Chain, you have to Ogi to get your Faded Chain up, so you're going to be having a bar from that. So your Bubs stacks, right, on your main character. Because I don't know if he does the plane. Let me pull it up on the wiki here. I forget if he does the plane unconditionally or if you need stacks. Let's see. I'm like blind. Give me a sec. Okay, yeah, so you need at least 2 stacks to do the 3 million plane damage. So you should have that prior to 90%, which I will actually add that here because this is the 90%. This is the 70%. And this is the 50%. So as this suggests, these omens appear at 90, 70, and 50 respectively. Even if you, let's say, run into the 90, right, and you're like, oh shit, I can't clear it, and then you wait, and now you're at, let's say, 65%, you're immediately just going to run into the 70% afterwards. So you want to make sure that you're at least moving and taking turns if you're looking to play throughout the raid, which I don't know why you wouldn't as water, and we'll get into why. Then, you know, just make sure you're keeping up with the raid pace and things like that. So again, Ogi, Chain Burst, and Summon. If you don't have all of your characters' Ogis up, again, let's say Dog has 90% bar, you know, throw out a Summon, that counts as 1 hit. Bubs, if you have already 2 stacks, that counts as 2 hits. So you only have 7 to worry about instead of 9. So keep that in mind. Oh, also 000. If you have this Summon, obviously it is 5 hits, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it counts as 5 hits. I don't advise using that to clear the 90%. The reason being, I feel like it's much more effective using on the 2 mil 12 hit or the 2 mil 15 hit. I don't know. I've never felt the need to use it on that 90%. If you do choose to use it at 90% instead of 70 or 50, that will put you at the second call, which if we swap here, it shows that you can remove all buffs from foes and you cancel all cancelable omens, but only on the first call. So once you call this, that second time, you will only cancel all the omens once. So if you rotate back to the dark side of this call, then you're not going to cancel them again. So keep that in mind. That's another reason why I don't like running Yachima as a summon in my main summon pool instead of the sub aura pool, is because if you call her, you can accidentally roll your 000 and you might just waste your second call on that. So keep that in mind. I do think that it is better to save it even outside of just this, because that second call, as you can see down here in the 40%, 15%, I feel like it's just going to be much more useful using that second call for, say, like the 15 million skill damage. But we'll get into that later. The 2 mil 12 hit, 70% trigger. Basically, again, save your Ogis, 8+1 with the Chain Burst, or Chain Burst cap up, sorry. And Summon, at this point, I would call my 000. That'll immediately take it down from 12 to 7. So, I just Ogi at that point. It's not too hard, even if your dog is missing like a little bit of charge bar, or your main character, let's say, is at like 127%, just throwing out an arbitrary number. Making sure that your other characters will Ogi multiple times, which the benefit of running Shalom and Hase is they only require 100% bar, and they will still Ogi twice due to Shalom's passive of having 10 or more debuffs on an enemy. The charge attack will activate twice, and Haselia's skill 4, which it's not required, but again, if you're a water player / main and you don't have Hase uncapped and Hase 4, what are you doing with your life? Let's be honest here, right? So with Hase 4, her Ogi will activate twice, so that's important to know as well. If you don't, however, want to call 000, you can use Bubs plus another summon, which at that point your Bubs trans stack should be stacked up, so that's 2 hits plus another hit from another summon call, assuming you have Yachima. If not, then Bubs would be 2 hits, that puts you at 10. You can click your Faded Chain to make sure that your dog 1 hits the 2 mil threshold, and you can also use Shalom 2 to count as another hit, so that puts you at 8 hits, which already is more than enough to do the Ogi +1, right? So it gives you a little bit of leeway with one of your characters. Mainly, it's always going to be Dog or Vajra that isn't going to Ogi twice if they don't have enough charge bar, so keep that in mind. If you also, additionally, if you want to Shalom 3 it instead of 000, you can do that as well. But I will say, if you Shalom 3 this, with current raid speeds, because your Earth player is going to be mashing, your Wind player, ever since Cry Sword got its update, Wind with Evanescence main, or even Charlotta Sword main, it's really fast, right? With its mashing and DPS and shit like that. So keep that in mind. Hunting as well. Hunting Earth Mashers, they are very fast comparatively to say an element like water, in my opinion, because water you're ogging and you're having high DPT, but it's a lot of lockout compared to Earth just autoing. So keep that in mind. You're probably not going to get this skill back up by the time for the 2 mil 15 hit if you choose to use it for the 2 mil 12 hit. So moving on to the 2 mil 15 hit, which happens at 50%. Typically what I like to do is Shalom 3 into Ogiing. It doesn't really matter how many Ogies you have, as long as these guys have 100% bar, the Shalom and the Haselia, then that's really the important part, because that's already 5 hits, right? 2 on Shalom, 2 on Haselia, plus the Chain Burst, would be 5. And at that point, you're only left with 10 hits. And if you're going to Shalom 3, you should still be able to summon at this point. Call your Lucy, call your Baha, call your Bubs, call your not Hades, sorry, your Varuna. Any of those summons that have that high damage multiplier. This is 2000%. I think Baha's also 2000%, yes. Comparatively to, like, say, Grand Order, and I believe the Primals are 400 or 500% respectively. I just want to verify that to make sure that I'm not giving misinformation. Let's see. I'm blind, sorry, Optimus, here we go. Okay, 400%. Gotcha. So that's still well over the 2 mil threshold you would need. So even if you're only able to get Shalom and Haseda Ogi, which would be, I don't know how you would manage that. Dog getting charge bar on, like, passively, depending on the number of chains that you do, you're always going to be chaining, unless you were going for a turn where you're autoing to say you're clearing the 36 hit, or you're doing the 4 TA, which, again, in that event, you should be getting lots and lots of charge bar, because Vajra has large charge bar gain, MC has large charge bar gain. I'm gonna verify this really quickly. Yeah, Shalom also has higher charge bar gain. I believe it's 30% additional, so keep that in mind. And yeah, so Shalom 3, Ogiing into Ogiing. If you Ogi with just these two, remember that Shalom, Haselia, her 3 gets reset on Ogi, so you should pretty much always have your Ogi up every turn. Just, like, without a doubt, you should always have your Ogi up every turn. So, on some character, whether it's these two, or Dog, MC, or all of them, you should always have Ogi up. If you don't, if you're gonna be playing the playstyle of spamming your 000, you can, panic call that if you need charge bar on your main character to get the double Ogi, to give these guys charge bar, whatever you gotta do. So, with that, that should clear it. And if, you're not confident in just Ogiing plus Shalom 3, remember you have Dog 1, because that should be off cooldown. It's only 6 turns. If you haven't taken 6 turns in this 20% threshold, then you're probably not clearing your Dragon Energy stacks. So you're probably going to end up having a lot of stacks in the 40 to 15% range. So keep that in mind. Or I guess 40% and onward, right? So keep that in mind. You want to be, again, moving with the pace of the raid as much as possible, so you can clear that Dragon Energy, clear your Omens, so you don't end up, potentially hard locked from clearing your Pearl. So, calling summons as well. Your Bubs might be up, especially if you're calling Bahas. If you choose to run Baha main instead of Lucy, I'm running Lucy main personally. It's 148k HP on my MC. If I were to swap to Baha, I believe I lose a substantial amount of health, but nothing too crazy. Yeah, I literally lose like 10k. So depending on who you wanna main for your main summon, you can even main 000 as well. I think Baha, in my opinion, might be the best. I think if you're trying to, well, yeah, no, I think Baha's the best, just so you can call it more. Gives you the amplify summon call damage on sub aura, and you get the 3-turn initial cut as well for having it as main summon, which isn't too important, to be honest. I mean, you're not calling 000 really early, and you need the Wings of Promise stacks regardless. You're not calling Bubs that early because you don't even have your Trance stacks regardless. You're not calling Lucy because you're not having even taken damage regardless that early in the game. So I don't think Baha main is super important comparatively to, say, Lucy or 000, but it's just something to keep in mind, right? That you have those summons at your disposal to help you clear that 2 mil 15. So those are all the 90, 70, and 50% omens. Let's get into the the intermediate percents, right? The three phases, and I will make this just a little more clear. This is, let's do this. Oh, the Galleon phase. This is the Wilnas. If I'll do both. Ewiyar, Galleon / Wamdus, and this is the, oops, Fediel / I can't think of the Luo phase, respectively. So, as you may or may not know, these three phases, they are randomized. Either you can get any one of these as your first, I guess I'll say, opponent or phase, right? If you end up getting Galleon / Wamdus, in my opinion, that is the worst one to get first as water, simply because doing the 4TA is a little bit difficult, considering that your main character, whenever you Ogi, I believe Kenko's passive, depending on the number of chain, or the tier of chain you do, so, 3 chain, 4 chain, 5 chain, etc., you get buffs to all allies based on the number of chains that you do. So just gonna pull this up on the wiki to verify exactly how much you get, but it is, MC gets 3% innate TA plus 7% after the ultimate mastery, right? And then that puts you at 10% on top of the 10% TA you get from this support skill, so that puts you at 20% TA. Bubs gives you 50% TA from the trance stacks, and I'm probably missing, oh yeah, you can get 10% TA from your EMPs, Extended Mastery, right? This gives you 5%, and this gives you 5%, so keep that in mind. That puts you at 80%. And if you wanted to, you could just run Ultima Katana with multi-attack, and that would put you at way over 100%. I believe Ultima Staff with multi-attack rate is better, just for Haselia to try to TA more, Shalom to try to TA more, since they are, she's staff. I think Haselia's staff too. Yeah, they're both staff, so that helps them a lot. Dog, if you click her 3, she gains triple attack, while in effect, and double strike, so that's already 2. And if you click No More Doubt on your main character, they gain tri-strike. So, I mean, the chances of you not clearing that is really, really low. I could be leaving out additional TA from some other source. I just can't think of it off the top of my head at the moment. But yeah, it's very, oh yeah, multi-attack from the Dia Katanas, right? From the number of katanas equipped. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe. And just to fact check myself, I believe that is, they're 2% multi-attack each, 1%. So this is 4%, 4%, 4%, so 12% TA. So you're at 92% TA boost. So that's just something to keep in mind. So it's very unlikely you don't clear the 4 TA, right? So just click Dog 3, click MC No More Doubt, and it is very likely that you clear that. Even if MC, for some reason, you get unlucky, they don't TA. Shalom has an increased TA rate of, I believe, 50%. Let me just fact check myself again. Yes, 50% boost to triple attack rate. So with that, on top of the extra 10% you get from the Kango support skill, on top of the extra, I believe we just said 12% from your Dia Katanas, which if you're not running a third Dia Katana, which I don't actually recommend, but it's just what I've been running and I'm too lazy to change my grid. I don't feel like borrowing another Knight of Ice or borrowing my, whatever Gabriel's weapon is called. I don't want to be illiterate here, so I'm going to check. Gospel of Water and Sky. I should bar these, but my bar luck has just not been it recently, so they're on the back burner for now. So, and this is easier to farm, right? So just, if you're gonna go with this, that works. Just know that. Also, I think the same applies for Haselia, except she doesn't actually have multi-attack rate buffs innately, I believe. So keep that in mind. Less likely to TA than Shalom, but very easy to clear. Faded Chain. I mean, your water. Fucking bro, just Ogi. You're Ogiing anyway. Your whole setup is based around Ogiing. Just Ogi. Hold your Faded Chain. If you're in that phase, I'm telling you, just hold your Faded Chain. Don't use it. Oh, DPS go burr. Don't do it. Right. Just hold it. Wait for that trigger to come up. Straightforward. Unless, right? Unless you, let's say for example, you have Faded Chain, right? It is turn. Well, not turn, but you're at, let's just say, one turn before you know you're gonna go into that 2 mil, however many hits omen at that phase. Ogieing with full chain should put you at 70% faded chain bar, and you're gonna Ogie again to clear these, so you know you're gonna get more faded chain bar. So if you end up Ogieing to clear that, you're gonna be at 100% faded chain after you clear that 2 mil, however many hit omen, depending on what percentage you're at in the phase. Then even if the boss comes at you with a faded chain omen immediately after that 2 mil, however many hits, you'll have it up. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. But if you ask me, just save it. Faded chaining once isn't gonna make or break, you know, like your run or whatever. So next phase is Wilnas slash Ewiyar. That requires you to do 36 hits or 5 charge attacks, which again, for 36 hits, it's really easy. We just went through the whole multi-attack spiel, so I'm not gonna, you know, go back on that. But you have insane multi-attack. If you need, again, you have no more doubt on main character to get all those extra hits in. You have your Vajra 3 to get, you know, some more turns and double strike. You have Hase 4, which is going to be your biggest asset because you do, I believe, and let me be more politically correct here again, depending on the amount of multi-attacks, the number of hits that comes out of the beams of lunacy changes, right? So if you are not the number of multi-attacks, the moon phase. So if you're at no moon phase, it's just 1 hit. If you're at crescent moon, it's 2 hits. If you're at quarter moon, it's 3 hits. And if you're at full moon, it's 4 hits. You should almost always be at full moon. You're constantly spamming Hase 3 the entire raid, so there's no reason to not be at full moon. I believe is how it works. But you do have to multi-attack for it to activate, so you can't just single attack and get the beams of lunacy to proc. You need to DA or TA or quad attack if you can somehow pull that off. So with that in mind, just make sure you turn off your Ogie. I don't know how players are dying in this raid, so I'm just explaining how to not die, right? Because I could not imagine what you're doing to die. So keep in mind, you know, turn your Ogie off so you can do the 36 hits. It's very simple, very straightforward. In the event you don't have Hase 4 for some reason, you can still clear it by using Hase 1. It's a link skill, it activates twice. If you want to use it twice, that's 10 hits. That takes you down to 26 hits, and it should be pretty simple from there because you have, again, Vajra 3. Shalom has decent TA. I believe Shalom gives, somebody gives Echo after for something. I don't remember. Something is Echo. I think it might be Hase 1. Not sure. But Water has decent Echo, so you can just auto and it'll clear for pretty much free. 100% of the time if you have Hase 4 and you're multi-attacking on everyone. 5 CA, legit just Ogie. It's Water, Hase 3, MC 1 if you need to. Make sure you have 10 debuffs on your Shalom again, because if you don't have 10 debuffs, she'll only Ogie 1 time, but even then, MC can Ogie twice, Dog can Ogie twice with given enough charge bar, Hasalia Ogies twice with skill 4, and so even without Shalom having her requirements met, you will have a very easy time clearing this. Next phase is the Fediel slash Luo phase. That is 10 debuffs or 5 skills. Very, very, very easy. Spam Shalom 1, right? Hase 3, it's fine if you just Ogie'd. She needs charge, she's at like 26% charge bar, right? It's fine. Skill 1, use your Hase 3 multiple times, and then spam your skill 1. You don't need, I think, again, this is another misconception. You don't actually need to Ogie on Shalom here. Yes, you're not getting the extra amount of chains for your dog's charge bar gain passive skill, but it's not like the boss is going to do anything but auto you after you spam your skill 1. So even if Shalom ends up not Ogieing that turn, it doesn't matter because your Hasalia more than likely will 100% Ogie that turn anyway. So her skill 3 will be back up. So there's nothing to worry about in terms of not having enough charge bar for the following turn. And in terms of 5 skills, again, it's super fucking easy. Spam your Shalom 1. You have Hase literally 1, 2, 3 to spam. These both can activate up to 2 times. And you can also recast this up to 2 times. You have your Dog 2, which in my opinion you should almost never click this raid, other than if you really need it for 5 skills. Dogs 4, again, you click it once at the start of the fight, you never click it again. You only click it again if you are really, really struggling to do the 5 skills. And MC Dispel as well, which I forgot to mention. When doing your 2 mil however many hits, I will go ahead and add this in. Dispel on MC. Because only if Maria back row. Otherwise, use Rain of Arrow 3, right? So I'm running Maria backline. Some people like to use Leshia because she also gives you, I believe, 2 mil in nukes, and I think she buffs your characters. Don't quote me on that from being back row. But yeah, I personally just do Maria. Sometimes it happens one of your front row gets sniped. Maria comes in, you can play around with Maria 2-3, Maria 1 does a lot of damage. She gives you a lot of sustain. She can help you kind of clean up the raid if that need be. So having Dispel also is an additional 2 mil hit, especially if you're running Knight of Ice, because it just amplifies your skill damage, and that just kind of ensures that you're doing all the damage you need to do to meet that requirement. But typically, I'm not clicking the skill very much because I just don't need to. It's a waste of time in my opinion. So if you, again, need another skill, you have that option there. And that's pretty much it in terms of pre-40, so 100 to 40%. Keep in mind, in this specific setup that I'm running, summon-wise, I'm not running Alex or Gojo. That is the most common way to deal with the 40% trigger, which is, if I pull it up on the screen here, I believe it is 1000% fire, water, earth, light, dark, and wind damage to all allies. Yes, that is correct. Doing 1000% damage multiplier and 6 hits, one of each. And depending on its Origination's Crucible level, which is that stacking buff that the boss gets if you're not clearing your omens and the boss is stacking dragon energy, then it does an additional 3000 plane damage per stack of that. So keep that in mind if you're going into somehow, again, somehow, if you're managing to not clear these omens and you're at, say, 9 stacks, I think 9 stacks is relatively reasonable for someone that's having a hard time in the raid. If you're going in with 9 stacks, you're going to be taking 18,000 plane damage. I believe, is that right? Oh, sorry, 27,000. Can't math. 27,000 plane damage plus the additional damage you're taking from the 6-hit fire, water, earth, wind, light, and dark damage. So I personally just blue pot and guard into it, and all my characters are fine. I'm typically 5 stacks or less because I'm clearing all my omens, so I'm only taking at maximum 15,000 plane damage, so there's no risk of me dying from just guarding and entering 40% that way. But if you're really scared, if you're new to the raid, I recommend kicking either Baha or Kieran here for Alex or Gojo, just to make your run a little bit safer. Personally, I like running Kieran in this slot because if I'm in a less competent lobby, having that additional Shalom 3 as a tool to help mash the sub 15%, if most of the party members have died prior to 15%, it helps me carry that. If I fuck up somewhere, like misclick a skill, or let's say somehow, some way, I don't have enough skills to do the 5 skill on the Fediel Luo phase, I have Kieran to get me out of that. Let's say I fuck up, I can't do the 2 mil 15 hit somehow, I have Kieran for that. It's just, you get the point, it's safety. And most of the time, I'm not even clicking my Kieran. I don't need it, but it's just, again, there just in case. Yachima as well, if you don't have her, it's not a big deal. Just throw Gabriel there, throw Wamdus summon there, just throw something there. It works out. Or 000, again, if you don't have it, I already went through all the options to clear everything without it in this document here, so keep that in mind. So when entering 40%, right? So we talked about it. You blue pot if you need to, guard, enter. You will immediately be presented with this omen that requires you to do 18 charge attacks or triple attacks within, I believe it's 6 turns. Or I believe it's 6 turns. Sky Dragon's Trial. I'm not seeing the turn count. Okay, yeah, 6 turns. So you have 6 turns to do 18 charge attacks or triple attacks. Again, bro, you're playing water. If you're spamming your Hase 3, you're at least oging 6 times a turn. So you should have this cleared. What is that? 6, 12, 18 within 3 turns, right? And you will experience a lot of lockout again because you're oging with such high chain amount. But at the end of the day, all that really matters is you at least clear your Pearl, because if you don't clear your Pearl, then the boss gets insane attack buffs, insane damage cap on itself. So, for example, if there is 1 Pearl left up, your charge attack damage will be capped at 4 million. I'm not sure what the auto cap is. I think it's quite high, like 800, 900k, something like that. Could be wrong, I'm not sure. But that is just something to keep in mind. You at bare minimum, you at least want to clear your Pearl in this raid. If you can't clear your Pearl, it makes the raid infinitely more difficult for every other player in the raid to carry, and usually results in an immediate fail, because most players that are running can't deal with the damage cap that the boss puts on itself and all the intensive damage that it gets from its buffs. So keep that in mind. I don't recommend clearing this via TA. It is possible with No More Doubt plus Dog 3, because you get a lot of, double strike, tri-strike. Their Shalom and Hase should also be TAing very often. Your MC, Dog should be TAing very often outside of that, but again, I don't recommend clearing it that way. Just Ogi, just Ogi. Don't troll, just Ogi. I actually didn't finish this part of my thing, so let's see. You can either get the... Where is it at? Okay, here we go. Hit 40 times. The 3 Dispel, 25 mil damage, or... Yeah, that's it. That's it. So, hit 40 times. We talked about this earlier. Just auto. It's no different from the 36 hit. Just auto with Hase 4. If you don't have Hase 4, use Hase 1 twice. And No More Doubt. Well, I'll say and or. I'm not sure of the exact number of hits, but if you want to be safe, use No More Doubt on MC or Dog 3. There, so there's that. And the 25 mil damage, again, you're playing water, just Ogi. Just Ogi, it's not hard. Assuming there's no damage cap from a Pearl being left up. If someone has a Pearl left up, remember that your CA and summon damage is hard capped at 4 million, so you might have to call, say, 000 if it's still on the fire, water, earth, wind, whatever phase, the call 1 phase, to do multiple instances of, like, I think mine 000 is like 3 mil damage per hit, so that would be 15 million damage. Calling Lucy Baha in conjunction, if you have the Yashima, that's 8 million damage. Calling Bubs is 7 million damage, so keep that in mind. And your Ogis, if you're Ogieing, let's say 8 times to clear this, that is 8 times 4, which is 32, so you should be good. So again, just Ogi. If you're really afraid, use your summons at your disposal. It's not gonna hurt you. And then the 3 Dispel, multiple options for that. You can either call Bubs, because as you know, Bubs dispels 3 buffs if the trance level is 1, I believe. I'm gonna go fact check myself. Yes, so if you have trance level 1, remove 3 buffs from all foes. Again, at this stage of the fight, your trance level should be maxed out, so no need to worry about that. If you don't have Bubs up, or you're saving Bubs, or for any reason other than the 3 Dispel, then you can also Ogi with 10 debuffs up, because Shalom Ogi will reactivate with 10 debuffs, as I've mentioned numerous times. So that's 2 debuff removals on top of the Dispel option that you have from MC, so that's 3 total. And if you don't want to click your MC's Dispel, Dog also removes a buff on Ogi, so if you have 200% bar with her, that's 2 more buff removals. You only really need to Ogi with her 1 time, plus the 2 times on the Shalom, so keep that in mind. You have those tools for that. To my knowledge, these appear randomly, so you can really just get a 3 Dispel into a dull turn into another 3 Dispel, so you don't just want to throw out your Dispel sources willy-nilly, even though it is your Ogi, and your Ogi is your source of everything in water for the most part, at least in this specific setup I'm using, so keep that in mind. You should really not be able to fail any of these, really, so... And just to touch on this a little bit more, the grid I'm running 3 Wamdus, 1 Knight of Ice, a Attack Awakened Dragon Ball, and 3 Dia Katanas, and then, the essentials, Hasebo. Hasebo is, I'm not going to say it's required, but, in fact, I am going to say it's required, because, again, if you are a water player, you are a water main, you have this character uncapped, you have this character skill 4, you should have this weapon fully uncapped. It gives you too much damage from the initial skill, in terms of attack specs, and it's just, extra sustain from the HP mod, extra cap up, keep that in mind. Ultima doesn't really matter, IMO, I just use Ultima Staff because I'm lazy. It's not even multi-attack buffed, so I'm not getting very much from it. It's just kind of there. I think it's even on, yeah, it's on Amp, so really, I'm gonna do this so I don't forget. My Ultima Katana is set to charge bar gain up So I'd much rather have that than the staff, even though it is buffing my Charlemagne and my Hase. I don't need it. I'd benefit more from the charge bar. So Ultima can really be whatever the fuck you want, doesn't matter. And then Draconic, not required, but it is very nice. I have mine on HP only because I was doing a lot of Mugen farming back in the day, and having that extra 10k flat health towards the Wamdus axis when you're not running Varna is very helpful. So Draconic, very good. If you don't have Draconic uncapped for some reason, because let's say this is your first time doing the raid, other alternatives would be either a, let's see, your other weapon here, or a Bahamut weapon, or I'm looking for the world weapons, or militants, right? So Bahamut weapons, you can really run whatever one you want. Just make sure it corresponds with your units. This is Draft and Human. You'd probably want the Bahamut Dagger for Erene, or you could even run the Bahamut something because she's Harvin. I forgot which one it is. I think it's the pistol. So you have that option. Oh, I'd have to go through anyway. Whatever. You have the Justice Sword if you have that uncapped. That is an option if it's 4-star or higher. You have your Militus weapons. So you can run the Zeno one. This gives you more HP, defense, and stuff based off staff equipped, which you don't have very many, if any, staffs in this grid. Depending on what variation of grid you're using, you may or may not have staffs, so it may or may not be an option. But I wouldn't even really recommend running that. The other option are the world weapons, which I'm gonna just go ahead and do this. I believe the Ogi one is dark, or this staff, that's a bow and sword. Harp and fist. Oh, this is skill damage anyway. So I'd recommend running one of the world weapons. I think the fire one might be best. It should be katana. It just buffs your MC. It's just, again, nice to have. So those are your options to fill, any of these slots if you're missing any of this stuff. So that's the grid. Summons I've already talked about. You can main whatever you want. Lucy, Baja, 000. If you don't have any of those, fucking Varna. Fuck it, just run double Varna. Doesn't matter too much. Shit, you can even main Bubs if you wanted to. Or Yachima. I mean, you could honestly really do any of those combinations of summon mains. In terms of your sub summons, again, Baja, Bubs, Lucy, 000, Yachima, they're going to be your best friends. Alex or Gojo if you are afraid of pushing through 40%. Kirin if you're looking for an alternative source of safety. And other than that, I mean, Belial, that's going to cut your health, but he's always good to have in a party. Zeph, if you want an extra source of Dispel and just giving your units more charge bar. I believe Michael as well, Dispel and Uplift and Delay, which Delay doesn't really matter too much in this fight. Uriel or Sariel, just because they give charge bar on call. You also have the Xmas Sariel or the Summer Mandrake alternative because they give you lots of debuffs. Which, do I have my Summer Mandrake here? Yeah, so they give you lots of debuffs for the Fediel / Luo phase. Also in the 15% there is a 10 debuff omen, so keep that in mind as well. They could be useful for that. But Grand Order and Gabriel as well. Obviously those are just nice to have for damage. Other than that, I mean, just kind of use what you have at that point if you don't have any of those things. And I think that's it for 40 to 15. That's it for the grid. That's it for summons. And obviously we've been talking about these characters the whole time. Final part of the video, I'm going to try to wrap this up quickly because the 15% is not too difficult to understand. Once the boss hits 15%, it will display the omen that requires you to Faded Chain to remove the unchallenged on the boss so you can actually do damage in the sub 15%. So you want to make sure that you have Faded Chain. I won't say no matter what, but again, you're playing water, so you're constantly ogging. Just hold, if you're like 20%, 22% left on the boss, just hold your Faded Chain. You're not going to need it for anything else. Just save it, just hold it. It's not that big a deal to optimize your Faded Chain usage. Just make sure you have it for 15% so you can help finish the boss. Water is one of the best, if not the best, elements to just hard push 15%. You can straight up solo it. If you, I think you can straight up solo it even with Kaneshige with the proper grid. And if you're running Shishio, it should be pretty straightforward to push lots of damage in that sub 15%. Keeping that in mind, once you clear the Unchallenged using the Faded Chain, you want to make sure you go in with your Ogies for 20 mil CA damage. Again, just Ogie. The next, and these happen sequentially. So it will always be Faded Chain once you hit 15%. It will always be 20 mil CA damage following that, and then following that 15 million skill damage, and then 10 debuffs, and then 2 mil damage 10 times, and then Faded Chain, and then after that, the boss will wipe you. So I'll add that here. Party wipe. So once you're doing your 20 mil CA damage, again, just Ogie, 15 mil skill damage. This one's a little bit interesting. I am running Knight of Ice, so this makes it a little bit easier for me personally. I just click dog 1 plus auto. My Hase 4, all my characters should be multi-attacking in the fight. I can click dog 3 just to make sure that she's TAing for that multi-attack. MC has guaranteed multi-attacks, and Shalom also deals multi-attacks, so she will DA no matter what. Minimal. And that will be enough to get your Hase Beam of Lunacy to hit. And at this point, again, you're spamming Hase 3. You should be full moon for damn near the entire fight, so you will always be getting the 4 hits for the most part. So that's just 12 hits just off of these characters alone, right? So I think something alternatively, if you're running No More Doubt or clicking Dog 3, I think because it's Double Strike and Tri-Strike, it will activate Hase's 4 multiple times. I believe that's how that works, so keep that in mind. Actually, I don't want to be lazy. I can just test that in a trial really quickly. I'm gonna run this because I don't want to have to. Oh, damn. I can't go somewhere else. Ugh, I can't get her out. Whatever. I believe that's how it works. So just take my word for it. If it doesn't work that way, I'm sorry. But at least you know at that point. So yeah, my way of dealing with that, dog 1 plus autoing. You can also use Shalom 2 or 3 to be safe if you don't have Knight of Ice, because I'm not sure what the non-Knight of Ice damage is like. Knight of Ice does make quite a bit of difference in your Hase 4 damage, so keep that in mind. You can also use 000 call 2. As I mentioned up here, you have numerous ways to deal with these without calling 000. So if you would like to save your 000 call 2 to do this 15 mil skill damage, then that would also be very helpful. If not, I would recommend swapping Yachima up here for your Kieran slot if you think you're experienced in the raid. Dropping your Kieran and then putting like Gabriel or Wamdus summon here, just because having that access to, you know, another Lucy call, another Bubs call for the board, Baja to lower your cooldown by 1, 000 to get Ogi on MC to cycle that, and then to also cycle your skills better, because when you call her, she's 1 turn cut to your ally's skill cooldowns, so that is important to note as well. 10 debuffs, very, very easy. Again, it's no different from the Fediel Luo phase. Shalom 1, Dog 1, Hase 1. You can click Dispel because Maria also, when you use a Dispel skill on an ally, she applies stackable attack and defense down if you have her uncapped, I believe. And debuff resistance, that is 3 debuffs, so that's something to keep in mind as well. And then you have your 2 mil 10 hit. Again, if you were able to clear the 12 hit, 15 hit, it should be no problem doing the 10 hit. Just Ogi and summon. It's very straightforward. You can also fade it chain plus dog 1 to make sure it hits that 2 mil threshold. If you're running Rain of Arrows 3 instead of the spell, that works as well. Shalom 2 if you're really desperate to get that extra hit in. Don't recommend it because you won't be able to summon, but I mean at this point in the raid, you're not going to be able to summon very much. Just the next turn, the turn after that probably won't make that big of a difference in the fail of the raid. Keep in mind as well, Shalom 3 does extend the amount of turns you can take in the 15%. So let's say you're at the party wipe, you can Shalom 3, the boss won't take an action, and then you can take your turn, and then you'll have an additional turn on top of that to move, so keep that in mind as well. And then lastly, Faded Chain should be up from doing the last Omen, which is the 2 mil 10 hit, which our main source of doing that is Oging. So again, pretty straightforward stuff. And then the turn after that is party wipe. So, in summary, water, if you are a water player, right, even if you don't have, you know, all of this, you can make something work. Use a full Dia Katana grid. If, like, host your Dias, get your Dia Katanas. They're important to have as a water player. There's, like, you can kick a Wamdus axe if you don't have 3. You can kick one for, say, an additional let's say, you know, Diakatana, Atlantis can work as well. Don't recommend running Folio Bow or the Europa Spear. I believe it's what, Taisai and Galilei. Simply because, I mean, it's wasted crit. You're not running a crit grid, so it's kind of wasted. Even Gottfried is an option if you have that. Justice Sword if you're like really rocking that free to play life, but it's not better than running an additional Diakatana. I don't know. You can run another Drain Ball with like healing cap up, I believe, is or boosty heal specs. Or I believe both of mine are attack spec because I don't have a Merg, so I have 2 attack balls. Merg again is another option. If you have Merg Awakened, that is an option. Thimble's an option. You have so many options. You just, you know, pick from any, right? Oh, also Gospel. Gospel is a very good option if you have that as well. In fact, I recommend if you have your Gospel, even if it's not uncapped, I'd almost recommend running it over a third Wamu axe, simply because it just gives you so much more damage. You're doing a lot of multi-hits and whatnot, especially with Hase 4, so keep that in mind. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, you know, feel free to comment. I like to post these links to my videos in Discords, in Reddit, everywhere, just to kind of spread the message. So if you have any questions, keep that in mind. Or you can even ask me directly on Discord. I'll just kind of put this here. My Discord is just Aku Koryo. I don't think caps matters. I can double check to see if how it's spelled. It is, oh, it's all lowercase. So that's my Discord. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me. Otherwise, just leave a comment. And yeah, I hope this helped a lot of people. I do get very frustrated at times from just failing because it's almost, I'm telling you, it's almost always the water player that is entering the raid. We get to 98% and then Gomen Nasai. So it's like, bro, like, I figured I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they don't know how to play. Maybe they accidentally misclick their summon, which, you know, it happens. I'm not perfect either. I don't always play perfectly in these raids. I've entered my fair share of hexes. I've entered my fair share of every raid in the game. So I just figured, what's the harm in making something like this, right? So I guess to wrap things up, thank you for watching. I will be making another video today with my boy Hilo. It'll be a collab, our first collab video with the new Legend Fest banner that is coming out in, I believe, 3 hours and 42 minutes. That is correct. So look forward to that. And yeah, again, leave a like, leave a comment if you have any questions. Check the description as always for my socials and for any shoutouts. I appreciate you all for watching and have a great day. Peace.